Hi, this is Warren Whitlock, and I don't want to bore you, so we're going to get right into it today and talk about not being bland or boring when you tell people what you do. As always, I've got my guest Thomas Mangum here to explain it all to us. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, Warren, always a pleasure to be here with you because, dude, you know how to connect, and it's so much fun. You usually getting together with you and others.
So you were so I don't I need to know what is it you do?
I help people attract the ideal client that they're meant to serve. I just happen to do that through teaching people how to be more likable and attractive so that people come to them versus hunting people down. That's just my approach.
Good. So how do you do that without being bland and boring? Because I could tell even with you, and it sounded fantastic, by the way. But I could tell that. Oh yeah, he said this before, and so the more polished it is, the more it sounds like something you've said before. What do you do? How do you make
Yeah,
yourself
I
not
think
bland
that's
and boring?
I think that's a really tricky thing because if everyone's been following along from the other episodes that we've done, we've been talking about how to, I guess at the core of it, I call it becoming a masterful connector, becoming a masterful networker, but really at the core of it is attracting the clients that you're meant to serve. Now this could be strategic partners, clients, whatever. I'm just using the word clients. Attracting the person that you're meant to serve and doing that in such a way that you're being doing that through being a really great connector and a great networker. There's all sorts of other ways to do it. We're just focusing in on the networking and connecting side of it, not necessarily online and all of that. And at this stage in the game, we're talking about, well, how do you answer that question when someone says, "Hey, what do you do?" And most people that I've ever met, it usually brings up some issues in the back of our heads. It like brings up stories. I know for me, I'm always thinking, okay, do they really want to know, or is this just a default type of question, like what's your sign? It's just something. It's a throwaway question. They really don't give a crap. They want to tell me what they do. They want to sell me their stuff, but somehow they've been taught that, well, you got to ask other people what they do before you open your mouth and tell them what you do. Well, this is where we are at this stage in the game. And I call this your who and do what statement. And in actuality, when I first started, I actually didn't tell you who I serve. I said what I did, so I kind of messed that one up. But here's the pure part of everyone watching and listening to what I just said. You are guaranteed to have human nature come up, and that you're gonna forget. We're gonna default into saying, "Hi, I'm an online marketer." Hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm an author. That's really great, and that's wonderful. Don't feel bad about it. Ideally, I like to hear from people when they tell me, who do you serve? They answer the question, who do you serve, and what do you do? What result do you get for what population? What is that target market, those people that you ideally serve? Here's why this is so important in any kind of networking conversation, especially when you're meeting someone new. It's because usually anxiety is involved when we're around people that we've never met before. So there's nerves and all sorts of things. And as we know, as emotions run high, intelligence tends to plummet a bit. We're not that bright when emotions are running high. So you really don't want to make people think that much. And let me give you an example. You go into a networking event, and someone says, "Hey, what do you do?" And in our mind, we're thinking, "Oh, yeah, well, great. Hey, listen, I'm an online marketer, and I help people make more money and create more time for their family and community. I do that through AdWords, and that's what I specialize in, pay-per-click and AdWords and things like that." When if someone's looking to start their business, and it keeps going, 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 going. Now, what's happening when you and I are hearing that on the other side? We kind of tune it out, and it does start to sound like Charlie Brown's teacher of like blah blah blah. Not because we aren't interested, but because there's nerves, there's other things going on. It's not crystal clear to me. Versus, what if that individual that was this AdWord and online marketer genius? What if they had said something like this? "Oh, I help." I'm trying to make something up on the fly here. Oh, I help business owners leverage the power of Google. I help drive traffic to existing business owners' business, or like retail business, local business. Let's just say local business. I help local business owners that own a brick and mortar store leverage the power of Google so that people are streaming into their establishment or their store. Even that was probably a little too much. Now, on the other end, now let's take that apart. What does that person do? They work with local business owners that have a brick and mortar store. What if I don't own a brick and mortar store? It's crystal clear to me that they specialize in working with someone who has a brick and mortar store. What do they help them do? Leverage the power of Google. This is not mystery stuff. These are probably not new terms to people. So I feel that your objective, and the reason I kind of came to this isn't a brand new idea. It's ideas that I've gathered from other people as well. The reason I like to hear when people tell me who they serve and what they do is it's because it helps me so I don't have to think as much. Warren, are you still hanging out there? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm here. I was just thinking about something that I'd read today about being authentic, and so I popped this thing up. This is my friend Rohit, and he came into a conversation we were having on Facebook. I shared a picture like the one you see here. This guy has gotten quite a following and is making money. Russian journalist who is taking pictures of his girlfriend from behind while he's holding her hand. And somebody came up and said, "Is that real?" And you know, the funny thing is, this article will tell you all about it. It's the influential marketing blog, and we'll get a link to that someplace. But let me see if it's back to me. There we are. Yeah, and so that whole conversation was like, we finally figured out that I really don't care how he photoshops, you know, his girlfriend's from the back on top of beautiful scenery. What Rohit was able to tell us is that it's real. Google is paying him, and he is going around the world and taking these pictures. And you know, he's made a whole career out of doing it. And he's you know, a fascinating person. I'd like to get to know at some point. But and instead of, you know, focusing on what all that thing's going in your head, because you talked earlier. And maybe I'm way off subject because it, you know, took me 2 minutes to go find the screenshot. But what you were saying earlier was about that thing we're playing in our head. Does this person really care? What is they trying to do? And really, there's a lot to be said for just going ahead and doing what you know is right. Having that internal motivation to say, this is the right thing to do. This is what I do. This is the people I serve. And if the guy isn't in retail and says no, you're better off than if you walked away and didn't have the conversation. You know, and I worry about this all the time, is somebody's going to know what I was saying 5 years ago, and it happens all the time. Like I get compliments all the time on my new Twitter Revolution book. That's now 7 years old. You know, 6 years old from when it came out. You know, and I'm going like, well, that's like a whole career. I've done several things since that, and I worry about, should I correct them? Should I? It doesn't matter. What matters is I've made a connection with a real person, and if they've taken the time to look and see that I wrote a book sometime in the past and compliment me on it or congratulate me on coming out, great. You know, I don't need now. I don't let them get misled to say that the book came out last week or anything like that. But on the other hand, correcting that and making it technically right isn't my first duty. My first duty is to connect with the human being and create a relationship. And of course, I'm thinking of sitcoms and movies that are based on the idea that you know, the couple gets together on false pretenses, and then at some point there's the big blow up, as you know, he finally has to admit that he really isn't the person that he said he was. And, you know, well, yeah, don't let things go like that. Forget about that, though. And, you know, don't go making up that you're a fighter pilot when you aren't and you're at a party and want to impress people. But, you know, if somebody doesn't get exactly the right impression, you've got to do it. So I think, you know, my message for today is, you know, as I think we've been saying, get out there, do it, try some of these things, and some of them might work. I remember one party I was at last year. It's a mixer. It was meet people locally, and I got out of the house and I went over to this thing and hardly talked to anybody. I didn't seem to gel. I didn't like the thing. I didn't like the place it was at. The people just seemed to be people that I either knew or didn't, or mostly didn't know or didn't care to know. They were local business people. I'm thinking, like, why did I bother? And I got into one conversation with a guy, and he asked me what I did, and I said something about how I was getting leads for businesses and helping them grow, something of that nature, which is not exactly what I normally say. And this guy lit up as if I had just, pushed a button of exactly what he wanted in life. And I realized that I did know enough to discuss that. It's an angle of my business, but it's not the main thing. I wouldn't have known if I hadn't bothered to open my mouth and try it.
Mm-hmm. Well, if for the folks that have been listening to some of the past episode, we've talked quite a bit about the core call to action is apply something. Be the person that you wish to attract. Either be a different person, be yourself, or do something. And that's really the key, because you and I have talked philosophically quite a bit on several episodes about the why, wheretofores, and how, and should you, and would you, and could you. And what we've been breaking down, if you guys are joining in today, this is about a very tangible doing thing. Because, and it's not, we're not talking, I mean, I appreciate you sharing what you shared, Warren, because I think that brought others up to speed, that it's not just literally saying, okay, if I tell people who I serve, that market, and what results I help get for them, then they'll automatically be attracted to me. It's a part of a larger picture, but I want to give you something that's due. On these several episodes we've been doing, we would really wanted you to see, yeah, there are some very tangible things that you can do. We've already talked a lot about how you should be, and we'll sprinkle in more of that, but it's so important, is don't overanalyze this one. If you want to be different, I mean, if we stopped the episode right now and said, listen, understand who you serve and what compelling result you give them. If in one sentence or two sentences you can say who you serve and what you do, you're already light years ahead of most other people out there. Because most people, most of us, were taught that when you're asked, hey, what do you do? We give them one of two things. We give them a label, and a label is not you, my friend. If you say you're an author, what the heck is that? Yeah. Because I'm going to think about all the asshole authors that I know. It's in my background, or either the amazing authors, and then I'm going to project that onto you. If you told me you're an author, I'm automatically going to access what I know. That's exactly what human beings do. We access the last person that had told us that. Sorry, it's just the way it works. So it could be a good or a bad thing.
So, and since you can't change any of that, doing it is a waste of time. I mean, I'd say if I really want to make an assignment of how to do this, and I don't know, this is the guy in Vegas thinking, I just go down to the Strip, into a randomly hotel, and ride up and down on the elevator and tell people what I do. And I go to one that had a convention going on, and maybe even get a name badge that looks like I was attending something in the area, got an old name badge someplace. And I just ride up and down the elevator and have people say, hi, how are you? Oh, you're attending the car show. Well, that's interesting. What do you do? And wait for them to ask me what I did and try some lines and find out what they say. No, absolutely no way any of that is going to, land me a client. Well, the truth is it could, but no intention of it landing me a client, just practicing doing it. And instead, I find myself, again, because of where I live, and I can, in 5 minutes, be at a major event almost any time of the year, I find myself going into things like that, and I'll tell you the truth, quite often it's, how can I get up to find the person I'm looking for, the room I'm looking for, and not engage anybody at all? I'm in a hurry. I've got to get there. I've got to get this thing done. And, jaded to that whole process. And the truth is, any of those situations. If you think about it, if somebody's, staying at the Cosmopolitan and they're on their way up to the room and they're attending some event, pretty good chance they're the kind of person that's got money to buy something. So they're the right kind of people if you don't talk about, whether or not they're shopping for your particular service. But yeah, there's just so many opportunities to meet somebody. I wouldn't say, for most of us, maybe you don't go to the mall to do this or stand outside a 7-Eleven.
Remember,
guys have so many opportunities just to tell people what you do.
well, remember, this is not about telling. I'm not advocating that whatsoever. This is an answer of when someone asks you. We've covered before how some of the best opening and worst opening lines. And this is to give you something to answer people when they say, hey, listen, what do you do? And I'm offering you something that helps you stand out so that you're not boring, bland, or even sound scripted. Because the other, I think, worst thing to do, number one, is give a label. And that's not a bad thing. I know I do it. You probably do it occasionally because you're just tired. And that's perfectly acceptable. Don't think that this, let's say you're at church and someone says, hey, by the way, Thomas, hey, by the way, what do you do? And sometimes I will just give a label because I'm not invested into giving something some big, long thing. We'll go over it later. Just understand it's not a bad thing. Sometimes you will use a label. But let's say you're at an event where you're on, man. I mean, you know that if they're asking, there's a reason behind that. So number one worst thing is just a label, and the second thing is you just run on for 5 minutes. Someone asks what you did, and you're still talking after 4 or 5 minutes, and they're thinking in the back of their mind after that first 30 seconds, they were just like, and they're just smiling at you because most people are polite. It's like, I have no idea what the hell this guy does, and really, I just wanted to know if he was a lawyer or a doctor. You know what I mean?
Right, absolutely. Well, I don't think I made the point right when I was talking about using an elevator, and it isn't about selling them something. It's like, okay, so what you do is you push floor 17, you get off at floor 17, and then sit down and write down what you said, and you do that 10 times, and you'll know that something works better than the other one. You should know instantly, but it's a good practice to go ahead and say, if you're not sure how to be answering that question, don't, you can go take the class on how to write a good elevator speech, but don't get too hung up on that. Just write down, 4 or 5 words and 10 versions of it, or 2 versions of it, and start testing. Find out what people react to. If they blink, if they wink, if they smile, if they grab you and give you a hug and say, you're just the person I was looking for, well, then you might have something good.
Okay, Warren, let's give a couple examples. We're going to play around with these and see how we like these, right? And so let's say you're a real estate agent and you work with, and this is where you really got to reflect, what do you do? Because the whole world is not your market. And the natural tendency, what I've found, especially newbie marketers, same thing has happened to me. I just please understand that I'm not being self-righteous about this. The same thing has happened to me, and it continues to creep in. And it depends on what level of success you have in your industry and what you're doing. So let's say you're a social media expert. Well, which target market do you serve? Well, business owners. Could you get a little more detail with the business owners? That's important. Now, you don't have to, but here's what I'm offering you. If you're a social media expert and you happen to work with small businesses, feel comfortable saying, yeah, and somebody asks you, what do you do? Oh, I help small business owners leverage the power of social media. Not as good as it could be, but is that pretty good? Sure, because here's what questions we need to answer. It's those, I was going to say primal questions, but I mean the really easy questions so I can categorize you. I'm on the other side. Who do you serve? Small business owners. What do you do? Help them leverage social media. Great. Could that have been spiced up more? Absolutely. You can get more detail. I help chiropractors leverage the power of social media to drive traffic into their office. Bam! Right? If you specialize in chiropractors. These are simply samples, guys, all right? These are just samples. I want to get your mind getting going on there. Let's say that you are a real estate flipper, real estate investor. and you use another guy's money to flip properties, to lock up properties, get them under contract. And you might say, oh, I work with a private group of investors that specializes in helping who? Commercial property owners that can't get conventional financing. We we can potentially help because we have access to private funding. Great. If you know a commercial property owner that can't get traditional financing, if you are a commercial property owner that can't get financing, you know who to call and what problem they solve. A real estate agent, common one. I know you get contacted by real estate agents, Warren. I certainly do. Real estate agents, brokers, that kind of thing. What do you usually say in a networking meeting? Oh, I help people try and find their dream homes. Oh, I help real estate investors buy more properties. Oh, I'm a real estate agent. Well, whoop-de-friggin' do. Let me throw a rock and I'll hit 10 of you. No offense, I just want to get your attention right now because people got choices. A part of my real estate, my investment portfolio is real estate. I know what it's like. I hire real estate agents. So how about something for you? And I was just having this conversation with another real estate agent, and I asked her, who do you specialize in? What do you mean I specialize in? I sell single-family homes to people. Yeah, but how do you differentiate yourself? Well, I'm the woman to call, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nah, something that really separates, that's going to cause you to be memorable when you leave an event. And she goes, well, I do my best work with new families, or like young couples get their first house. Bing, 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 bing. Not all real estate agents specialize in that. And so now she can go out. She's trying it on for size to see if it's getting the results that she wants, and she feels comfortable with it. She goes, "Hi, my name is so and so, and I help young families get their first dream home, or starter home, or whatever." That's great, because Warren, tell me, was there anything ambiguous about that?
Mm-hmm. No, not. And the power of that is that when I meet somebody that's that focused on what they do and they're an interesting person, I want to find out more and find out if there's a way I can connect it to what I need or what I do or what a friend might need. I met a realtor once that focused on, and we were talking about author stuff. It was at some convention like that or something, and she said that she specialized in the island of Crete. Well, gosh, I only know one person that specializes in the island of Crete, and so she did that and sold jewelry, and I was wondering I can't remember what the book was about, but I've since we didn't do any business. It's been years. I've forgotten about her, but still in my mind, when you start talking about realtors specializing, I remember Isle of Crete. It was there, and assuming I've got her contact information somewhere, if anything, anywhere near that, if somebody owns a jewelry store and wants to vacation in Europe, I'm definitely going to connect those people. If somebody is trying to work on an exotic location someplace else, I'm going to say, I've met somebody that does that before. You may be in a completely different part of the world, but you ought to connect. There's so many directions that can go, and I can't think of a more limiting thing than I sell real estate in Crete.
Well, here's the bonus. I mean, this is a really good thing, because if you're a new entrepreneur, if you haven't achieved a certain level of success in your business, I bet a question is coming up in your head. Yeah, but I don't want to be that specific right now. And here's the dilemma. Here's the thing, because the very thing that you think is going to cause you think you're going to chase people away is the very thing that will attract people to you. I promise you this. I can show you case after case. This is the same kind of program that's gone on in the back of my head, and it's something that all of us get through at some point. The specializing sounds like you're turning people away. In actuality, it actually, people are more attracted to you. Let's use the example of the real estate investor that specializes in the island of Crete. I know another agent in Phoenix. He specializes in helping French Canadians get property in the Phoenix area. Just as crazy specific, don't you think? Think about that. I'm not French Canadian, but can I use you for Phoenix? Here's the power. There's something about, I don't know where it is in our programming, that we like that specificity. There's a confidence in it. There's a, it's actually very attractive. And what a lot of folks that do specialize, what happens is that once you meet somebody like that, I'd be willing to bet that you'll want to ask them a question. Hey, listen, I do know somebody that's looking for some real estate. Do you know someone that can actually help me? I know you specialize in CRE. Well, that gives you the opportunity to either work with them or to refer someone over. But here's the point. You're top of mind and you're a subject matter expert. They're coming through you. You've accidentally become a connector. That's a good thing. You're a hub. You're a trusted and credible person. Does that make sense? That's the bonus.
Yeah, I got another thing I used to use this jokingly all the time, that my attorney was a bankruptcy expert. That I had fortunately never needed his specialty, but I knew the guy from when I was a kid, and we were friends. And so if I had a legal question, I'd call him. If he told, most of the time what he'd say is, "Here's the letter to write," and I go like, "Oh, that's pretty good. That's what I would have done anyway, but it feels good to have asked my attorney friend." I was fortunate in that I didn't need to hire him for his specialty or have him refer me to very many people. Actually, come to think of it, he did. One time I needed something, I called him. He referred me to somebody who he knew through his network. And so even though I ended up never actually, writing a check to this guy, he was a client at one point. We were friends for decades, and it's kind of an odd one because you always have to have that caveat that he's a bankruptcy expert. Well, no, that's going to be a bad. But if I'd have had a friend, and I since have it here in Las Vegas, I had somebody recently ask me, "Do you know a bankruptcy attorney?" Well, I do. I know another one that's here. And I can't vouch for him because I've never, used him. But he's a good friend, and I trust him, and I know he's a good guy, and so I connected him with somebody. Mm-hmm. Will he make money off of that? Maybe, probably. I don't know. You don't go back and ask somebody if they use a bankruptcy expert. But anytime somebody asks me about, what hotels to stay in Vegas, if you think about it, I'm the last person to ask. I don't stay in hotels in Vegas. But if you want to know about, anything about that, I love talking to people about that because I know that's connected me in a way that's non-pushy. I mean, I can even get excited and tell people why I think the Venetian would be better than the Palazzo for them. Though they're basically the same place, but I can get all of excited and tell them about this experience or that, or why I think they like this thing in particular or this show, something like that, just because I can let go. I don't get a commission if somebody stays at any hotel. And so it's just another way to connect with people. And that's as far off as it can be. Bring that back to what we're talking about today. Anything you say you're an expert at, anything you know about, you can talk about. If I can be an expert about what hotel is nice in Vegas, and why do people ask? Because they don't know somebody that knows better than me. So I am the expert to them. And if you can do that, then sure, day one, as soon as you go into business, decide that you're going to be an expert. Read one book on it. Spend an hour a day studying it. In no time, you are the expert. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't matter whether or not you ever make a sale in that or not. My examples were non-sales, and certainly I can see that if somehow I ever needed anything in Crete, it would be a direct sale. I wouldn't call anybody else.
Okay.
I think we've talked about this quite a bit. Our assignment. Give us an assignment. What should we do this week?
Well, to try on something new, to let go the next time someone asks you, what do you do? Well, I mean, actually before that, reflect upon some of the examples that I shared today and think about what is that specific market that you serve, and what compelling result do you give them. And really, quite simply, I help get this. You don't have to be clever. You don't have to be cute. You don't have to sound flowery or anything like that, because then it's going to sound scripted and weird. you know, I love life coaches. I love them to death. I mean, they're awesome. I've had good ones in my life. But man, I'm telling you, sometimes you got the weirdest. I say, hey, what do you do? It's like, you know, I help people become even more of themselves. I'm like, what the, excuse me, like, what is that? Like, what? I mean, it's funny because at this point in my life, I totally get what they're probably meaning, but the average person on the street is probably going to go, what's she smoking? What's he smoking? You know, I mean, let's be more concrete with it. Yeah, I know that's what you're doing, but something that's really easy for the guy on the street or the girl on the street to understand. What compelling result do you help what particular sub-market with? You know, if you guys probably know, I've said this a million times in the show, I specialize in working with men, male business owners that already run businesses. Oh, whoa, that's crazy. But what about women that want to hire you or work with you? They absolutely do. I just don't target them. Isn't that interesting? So this is actual results. I mean, most people that connect with me or that end up doing business with me oftentimes just happen to be a male business owner. I don't know why. I kind of, but I mean, we're not getting into that today. The point is,
No,
here's your lesson. Here's your call to action. Here's your thing.
it doesn't really matter. I mean, just yesterday I was invited to a women's empowerment conference in October. I thought it was some kind of spam thing, and I reacted nicely. Fortunately, I wasn't, you know, but you know, it was Sunday afternoon, and I go like, you know, you really want me to come hang out with, you know, spending 3 days at Lake Las Vegas with 200 women? That doesn't sound like a bad thing for me to do. And so I made a joke, and she came back and said, "Oh, your ears must have been burning. I was looking for you." So I then posted that I figured out what that burning sensation was. It was her. And I worried about whether somebody would take that burning sensation to mean something else or get offended, especially her.
More and more.
You know, and it went a little bit weird, but you know, I quickly said, you know, you said my ears were burning, and she says, thanks for clarifying that, and realized that she was looking to reach out to me on something, and she finally said that her clientele was 45% male, 55% female. She has a mission to empower 1 million women to get beyond the glass ceiling, and I have very definite views on what I think of the glass ceiling, and they may be in conflict to what some people that are using that as their brand is. We managed to have a conversation, looking forward to going out to the event because her you know, well, one of my friends is speaking at the thing, and so going like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to go see what happens. I'm not going to speak. I'm going to drive by and say hello. And you know, I have seen women's empowerment things where they don't want any males. The point being of all this is that it doesn't really matter what she said she was looking for or whatever. I don't think she at any point thought that I was female or wanted to become female. You know, that wasn't the point of the discussion at all. If I'd have skipped all the joking around and said, sounds like a good idea, I'll consider coming, that might have been the end of it. I might have just forgotten to even put it on my calendar. So engaging somebody on any level can help. So yeah, that's the assignment this week. Go out and try something you haven't tried before, and you got slapped in the face. A, don't do that again. B, don't blame Thomas. And C, let us know about it.
I'm pretty sure that was you. I'm pretty sure that yeah, that was not even remotely what I was asking you guys to do. Simple. It almost can sound boring to you, but I would virtually guarantee the person, whoever it lands on, of what you tell them, which specific market you serve, and what results you get in a sentence or two, they are so going to appreciate that, and you will stand out as unique, memorable, calm, clear, bam. You're going to be remembered. All right, let me know your results, and we can talk about it on the next show.
Do it again next time. You can connect with Thomas on his URL or mine here, the 93p.com/masterful. That's to become a masterful networker. And if you want to know more about working, and Thomas let us know what you think. You can find us on, Twitter, Facebook, email, whatever, or we may just materialize if you think about us long enough, but probably faster to go ahead and reach out and say hello. And I'm looking forward to that. Bye.
Bye.